fall of 1872, the Neosho School Board bought a small house to utilize as a school for black students. The school served an average of 21 to 30 students a year, with the highest enrollment documented at 62 students. It was converted back to a private residence in 1891 and has remarkably remained intact over the ensuing decades, despite numerous modern additions which have since been removed. The school represents part of a large and continuous struggle for Black Americans to capture a fundamental right of citizenship, access to education. The Neosho Colored School is also the first school attended by noted Missourian Dr. George Washington Carver and provides a tangible historic resource directly connected to his life. In 2004, the building was donated to the Carver Birthplace Association, and over the last 2 decades, they have made great strides in the preservation of the building, including structural stabilization and restoration of the exterior. A historic structure report was prepared, approximating that 70 to 80% of the original fabric is intact, and recommends treatment for the remaining restoration work, including historic paint analysis, repair of plaster and trim, encapsulation of lead paint, stabilization of the second floor, and more. In order to achieve this massive undertaking, the Carver Birthplace Association applied for and was awarded a $70,000 grant from the National Trust for Historic Preservation's African American Cultural Heritage Action Fund. While it may seem like the future of the school is bright, the project is a ticking clock. In order to succeed, the CBA must come up with matching funds and complete the work by March 2025. It is hoped that listing the 1872 Neosho Colored School as a place in peril will help raise the much-needed matching funds that will ensure the restoration of the school and its future as a cultural heritage site interpreting not just the life of Dr. Carver, but the plight of African Americans in their struggle for equality. The new Potosi Presbyterian Church at 104 West Breton Street was commissioned in the church's 75th year to house a growing congregation. The second Gothic Revival-style limestone building was completed in 1909 based on designs submitted by Potosi native and famed architect John Anderson Langford. Langford is known as the first professionally licensed African-American architect in Virginia and is often regarded as the Dean of Black Architecture. The Potosi Presbyterian Church is one of 3 churches he designed in Missouri and is the only known church designed and built by Langford for a predominantly white congregation. While it is unknown whether Langford was a member of the Presbyterian Church, records indicate he worked throughout his youth for a prominent member of the church who also served as a Sunday school teacher for the African American children of Potosi. Like many small churches these days, the congregation of Potosi Presbyterian Church lacks the funds to carry out regular maintenance of the historic building, which in turn has created larger issues.
So a few years ago we had some contractors and engineers come over and look at the outside structure, the steeple and the roof and everything. They were the ones that finally came to the conclusion that there was severe damage in the tower. I had also around some of the windows where they were framed up when they were being built. The wood structure between them was starting to rot out. Bricks were falling out in around a couple of the windows.
It is hoped that listing the Potosi Presbyterian Church as a place in peril will raise awareness of the building's significance, grab the attention of reputable preservation professionals who can provide assistance and realistic bids for repairs, and help the congregation raise much-needed funds to preserve this landmark for future generations.
It would be a shame for this church to not be here and not have members in it.
It's always had a very important role in the community.
It's so beautiful, it's something that we should preserve.
Hello, I'm Delilah Johnson, a class of 1982 graduate, and I am also the president of Seymour Alumni Association. Seymour school history goes all the way back to 1840. The rock building for elementary school students was built in 1939. This building has always been known as the Rock Building, as it was truly built on a firm foundation and has stood the test of time. This building was constructed as a WPA program project. In 1991, after 52 years, the Seymour School Board voted to close the Rock Building. All students would eventually be moved to other school buildings and reorganized classrooms. Issues of being vacated has left this building in peril.
The public school system does not have the resources to maintain, let alone restore, a building that can no longer be used as a public school, and the longer it remains vacant, the harder it will be to find a new use, making demolition more likely. Water damage from a failed roof has created mold issues and flooded the basement. In 2019, vandals broke in and damaged more of the structure. While there is strong community interest in saving the building, it is difficult to find an appropriate new use and funding. Efforts are underway to list the building on the National Register of Historic Places, which would make any future rehabilitation by a private entity eligible for historic tax credits. In 2020, the Seymour Area Arts Council attempted to purchase the building, but the sale fell through due to surveying issues. The most recent plans were to create a partnership that would allow the building to be used by the community as a continuing education and training center, but those plans have fallen through as the school district is not willing to sell the property for a minimal amount that would be needed to make a rehabilitation feasible for the buyer. Concerned individuals hope that listing the Seymour Grade School as a place in peril will lend credence to preservation efforts and convince the school district that the most cost-effective measure for all parties is to agree to a sale of the building at a reasonable price.
Can you imagine the many years of memories that would be torn down with the destruction of this beautiful old building? It's not trash. It's a treasure to our community and to the embodiment of what preservation stands for.
I am Judy Maggard Stewart, President of Friends of Mount Zion, as well as President of the Shannon County Museum Association. This is my childhood church, Mount Zion Community Church of Acres, on the Glory Land Trail above the beautiful Current River.
I'm Rick Mansfield, a local historian and author. Volunteer preacher has had the honor of delivering the message at this facility more than once.
Friends of Mount Zion is a federal nonprofit. They have made a list of all the estimates and structural needs of the building, as well as the historical and cultural value of the building.
We appreciate the stewardship shown by the NPS and the ONSR for this last nearly half a century since they first took ownership of the building. But the superintendent of this park is charged with more than 100 miles of streams, the stream sides, and literally thousands of visitors each and every week. Friends of Mount Zion has one purpose solely.
My grandmother, Jane Summers Purcell, wished to worship her Lord in a community church. So in the fall of 1939, on land donated by her and her husband George, a foundation was finally constructed.
Neither would the lasting effects of the Great Depression nor the start of a second global conflict derail this communal effort. Over almost a decade, the building took shape. During that time, services were sometimes held, as were other civic events.
My grandmother Jane had a dream, one she shared with her family and friends, neighbors and visitors to the area we call God's country. Many shared it with her, and this church building, this community anchor, was begun. She did not live to see its dedication on August 8, 1948, nor did all of those that had assisted with the start. I don't want to pass before we see this building restored and reopened.
And that's how you can help. We again express our gratitude to Superintendent Lott and others in the ONSR, NPS, that have held this building intact and preserved for 50 years. But they have many responsibilities. Friends for Mount Zion has but one: a failing roof, a foundation that needs buttressed, flooring that needs refinished, and walls that need fixed are but some of the physical wants, as are safe egress and increased parking. Please note the sites that have the specifics, including where you can donate directly to this fund. Donations are tax deductible. May God bless all who are willing to help.
Equitable Building at 401 South Lamine Avenue was designed by W.S. Epperson and completed in 1891 during a major building boom in Sedalia. The two-story Romanesque Revival building, one of few remaining examples of this style in town, originally housed the Equitable Loan and Investment Company. Its most notable occupants have been various local newspapers, including the Sedalia Democrat, the Sedalia Sentinel, and the Sedalia Capital. The County of Pettis purchased the building in July 2022, but at that time, no plans were announced for its future. In March 2023, citizens spotted a call for bids in the local paper to demolish the building. The County Commission responded to concerns by hosting a public meeting and stated that the call for bids was to help determine the most cost-effective action for taxpayers and that no official decision has been made. They fear that rehabbing and making the building ADA accessible will be too expensive. At this time, it appears no official call for bids to rehab the structure have been announced, and that the only estimates for costs have come from county maintenance employees and not an experienced preservation contractor. A third option was raised to sell the property to someone willing to rehabilitate the structure, but the county owns the entire block and doesn't wish to lose access to this one parcel. Also concerning is that the County Commission was unaware and unwilling to recognize that 401 South Lamine is listed as a contributing structure in the Sedalia Commercial Historic District on the National Register of Historic Places, making any decisions regarding its future subject to review by the Sedalia Historic Preservation Commission. It is hoped that listing the Equitable Building as a place in peril will help hold the County of Pettis accountable for this historic structure and their many constituents who wish to see it preserved, and perhaps bring the building to the attention of reputable and experienced preservation contractors who can provide realistic bids for an ADA accessible rehabilitation. Washington Chapel CME Church at 1137 West Street in Parkville, Missouri was dedicated on the 29th of June, 1907, and boasted a congregation of 80 members, many of whom were prominent leaders in the Black community. The construction of the church was supervised by Charles Patrick Breen, the superintendent of buildings at nearby Park College. It was built with native limestone, a material Breen used frequently, and designed in the late Gothic Revival style. Members of the Board of Trustees at the college took a great interest in Parkville's Black community, and many of those who worked at the college were deeded land. There were even plans to construct a Black annex at the school. While the plans for the annex never came to fruition, it was that goal that spurred the construction of Washington Chapel on the land that had originally been set aside. The congregation of this colored Methodist Episcopal Church, now known as the Christian Methodist Episcopal Church, in Parkville, is said to be the second of the denomination in Missouri and has been meeting as early as 1870. Washington Chapel CME Church served as a spiritual, social, and visual focal point of Parkville's Black community well into the 1990s. However, congregant numbers dwindled as many Black families migrated to urban centers to escape discrimination and segregation in Parkville. The small aging congregation has difficulty completing building maintenance on their own and also struggles to raise funds for outside labor. The roof needs repairs to stop continual water damage. The restrooms are currently non-functional nor ADA compliant, and vandals have recently damaged the structure. It is hoped that listing Washington Chapel CME Church as a place in peril will raise awareness for the plight of this significant piece of Parkville's Black history, help raise funds for their capital campaign, and garner attention of potential volunteers and preservation professionals who can assist with the preservation of this historic landmark. St. Laborious Church, located at 1850 Hogan Street, was constructed in 1889 for the increasing number of German Catholic immigrants settling in the area of North St. Louis. The St. Laborious Parish District, a three-building complex including sanctuary, rectory, and convent, was listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1978 and is noted as the first major Catholic church in the area to build in the Gothic style. Although parish membership dwindled with the declining population, St. Laborious was still able to make an impact on the non-Catholic community through the services they offered, and the iconic church building was considered a valuable symbol of the neighborhood. The church officially closed its doors in 1992. A little over a decade ago, the church was purchased by a pair with a unique vision for the building's future. Skate Laborious was born. Under the nonprofit Laborious Urban Arts Studios, Skate Laborious has a mission to preserve the historic parish complex and utilize it as a skate park, art, music, and education center. Laborious Urban Arts Studios launched a fundraising campaign in 2022 known as Long Live Laborious, and was working towards bringing the building up to code and within ADA compliance. A massive fire in June 2023 destroyed much of the former sanctuary and rectory, leaving a shell of brick walls. Despite this major setback, Laborious Urban Arts Studios is not giving up and is pursuing all possible avenues to save this building. They have garnered international attention for what is arguably one of the most unique adaptive reuse projects for a historic building, and it is hoped that listing the property as a place in peril will increase visibility for Skate Laborious and their goal to rebuild and continue the mission set out by Laborious Urban Arts Studios. My name is Riley Price, and I'm the Executive Director of Missouri Preservation. I wanted to say thank you for joining us for our 2023 Places in Peril announcement and encourage you to visit our website, preservemo.org, so you can find more information about these places in peril and how you can help them. I want to thank our corporate partners, Mangrove and Rosen Preservation. We could not do this without you, nor without the help of our wonderful members and donors.